Hello, this is The Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative perspective about the world around me. So, feedback is important. Questions, comments, concerns, show ideas. Feel free to email me as I mentioned. Well, I'm mentioning it early. Substack, X, and of course, fill up the comments in YouTube. And you enjoy my content, be greatly appreciated if you become a supporter. So that link is provided and it's $5 a month. So this episode goes on the theme of October, and I'm focusing in on the musical aspects about particularly soundtracks of horror films. And I'm going to cover other horror films about soundtracks. So this is the start of that. So I'm going to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, the soundtrack, and then also I'm going to add in too about the aspects of games too, and I'm going to talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street game too, to add in a different element to it, everything. And also, I like to know what you all think about horror films and music, particularly to start out the conversation about jump scares, or how do you think that adds to the emphasis of the scene or not, or I'd like to know. So contact me and the social links that I will list is listed under other/links, other links/social, and just let me know. All right, here we go. All right, so guys, A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, okay, yeah, now, when you look in retrospect or what have you, on that point of view or perspective, what have you, coming back to the theme of this podcast about perspectives, particularly conservative perspectives. But, okay, jumping on back to my point. So, soundtracks are nothing new as far as giving the aspects of musical artists and film, particularly with horror, when we see all the different genres that came out after Nightmare on Elm Street, as far as that. Even before Nightmare on Elm Street, with Halloween, would be more of a musical score, and along the lines of having musical artists sound, as far as sound songs, actual songs. And needless to say that that's not an actual song, just a musical score. But going back to the point, so with the aspects of all these different horror films, like A House of a Thousand Corpses, things like that. Then the Cloverfield, I guess you could say that's kind of a horror. 28 Days Later, stuff like that. And then, because that goes along the lines of musical scores. But particularly what's unique to me and what was pretty innovative for its time is that Wes Craven and his team and all of that. Poppy, you got to stop dropping that. Eat it, baby. Okay? Don't drop it. Just eat. Sorry, my baby girls. And y'all who have kids, y'all know how that is with dropping and everything. But she's doing a good job. She's trying her best, and she's getting there. So, you gonna eat, baby? Okay, don't drop it again. Okay? And sometimes y'all who have kids, y'all know that sometimes she does it on purpose for, thinks it's funny, and just gotta remind them, hey, eat. Okay, so I think it was pretty innovative for its time because they understood the power and the impact of how popular music can influence the aspect of a franchise. And so at the time when Nightmare on Elm Street was at its height, it was going on at its height during the MTV era, the 80s era. So that era was pretty essential to the aspects of music, television, and how that shaped youth culture. And so, droving in on that, as the series of A Nightmare on Elm Street grew and became more and more popular, they brought in particular artists of the, you would say, merge into the hair metal band, rock pop bands. So, for instance, Dukin and people like that, bands like that, they started to show their presence in Nightmare on Elm Street franchises, and particularly Dream Warriors. So I remember, I was too young, little bit when it was originally going on as far as the Dream Warriors and all that. But what I'm recalling is when I remember seeing A Nightmare on Elm Street for the first time, the first one when I was 15, and then seeing Dream Warriors when I was about in my 20s. Hearing that one song by Dukin, We're Your Dream Warriors, and the emotional impact of not only from the instruments but from the lead the frontman of Dukin, how it catches your attention, and you can't help but notice and want to pay more and more attention to the film and learn more about the artist. And if you really like the song, buy the song, and that influenced how Nightmare on Elm Street was seen. It was more of a mainstream thing to where it eventually became a part of pop culture, and it had its own following. A lot of people that, you could make that argument. But, of course, there's critics about it where it's just oversaturated as far as the aspect of what unfortunately goes on now. If something is profitable, keep milking it and not having original ideas about it. And then, you could make that argument for, as the franchise went on, it didn't really have a unique aesthetic as far as storytelling, but needless to say, it did as far as the impact of visual mastery of what is seen as far as thought of in the aspects of horror film. It's something to look at. And so, that goes without saying, going back to criticism, that, that's well within the realm too, because, it did get cheesy towards the end. But keep in mind about all of this, this goes into the aspect and the authenticity about to getting back to the aspects of the film, that it gets people talking. I guess you can say that too, with the realms of the campiness of the later films. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to break down the facts. First, I'm going to talk about the soundtracks and the artists, and then I'm going to wrap up talking about the games. Merging into that about the games of Nightmare on Elm Street. All right, here we go. And of course, all of these sources will be provided for you in this episode if you want to look even further into it. So I'm just sort of scratching the surface and then giving my thoughts. All right, so Dream Warriors by Dukin. So this was from the album Back for the Attack of '87. So it was written by George Lynch and Jeff Pilson of Dukin. This is the theme song for the 1987 movie A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. It's the first in the franchise, and it was starring Patricia Arquette. So the band was asked to write the song, which had to be titled Dream Warriors, the name for the kids in the film who were fighting against the nocturnal tormentor of Freddy Krueger. So it wasn't, as they say, and as it is written in this source, it wasn't as friendly as Ghostbusters. And they were able to write a big chorus around it. The verse lyrics are more generic, dealing with the sleep and the torment. Outside of the content of the film, it could be a song about a guy trying to get over a breakup. So, again, as I was mentioning about the impact of MTV, and they had a music video, Dream Warriors. This was turned into a music video. And so you could even more so along the lines, it was a promotional tool. You could say that was a promotional tool to get people's attention towards the movie. And, you had the young starlet at the time, Patricia Arquette, starring in the music video too, and all of these things. Okay, so the music video inhabits the same world as the film, the band showing up in Patricia Arquette's dream to help her vanish Freddy Krueger. So the film of the same demographic, it was the same demographic of the teenagers, of MTV teenagers. So they put the video in rotation, giving Dookie more airplay on the network. This was released as a single to promote the film, but also not included on the soundtrack, which was just the film score. Dream Warriors was the only original written song for the movie. It was included on Dukin's fourth album, Back for the Attack, which was their peak. As Dukin got more successful, they got at each other's throats. And it goes along the lines with how with the fame of 1988 Monsters of Rock tour and all of the aspects of what split them up. Okay, so going back to Dream Warriors. So according to lead singer Don Dukin, when the band got the assignment, he wrote his Dream Warriors and his bandmates wrote theirs. And it says that mine was more up-tempo, more of a rock song. And this was what he said to the Song Facts interviewer. And he's quoted as saying, "They had given me a rough cut of the movie so I could know what the movie was about. So I wrote the lyrics." And then, so it says Dukin put some gloss on the song, and they knew they were going to be released. It was going to be released as a single and get videos. And it's saying that it paid off in popularity, but cost them some metal cred. So, that again, that goes along the aspects of hair metal bands of that those sort of bands weren't seen as true the authenticity of metal, as far as, what is thought of as metal, as far as Dio, artists like that, rest his soul. Rest his soul with Ozzy Osbourne, people like that, Black Sabbath, with back to Ozzy Osbourne, more contemporary of Rob Zombie, even more contemporary than that, you could say, you could make the, Metallica, for all the issues with them, still a metal band and things like that. They were just seen as another hair metal bands, as far as bands like Poison. I think Warrant with, I think they made Cherry Pie or Warrant. I think that was the band. But y'all who know, correct me if I'm wrong, or just correct me. So, those bands were just seen as metal rock band for people who like pop music, if that makes any sense to you. And it was just another cookie cutter band, just without any soul or authenticity to the message behind metal music, which is, for me, this is from my point of view about metal, is upping the ante with the instruments, is accompanying your lyrics, and then you're going back to the roots of breaking down the social commentary about the world in which you live in, and really amplifying that, and about all the destruction and mayhem, but along the lines of also on, not so deep and loathing and depressing things, but on the aspect of love and understanding. And then even in the even on the other end of that, the dark side of love and the agony of love and wanting it back. Things are like that, But hair metal bands, is what I'm going to, along the lines, is what Dukin was seen to be tagged as by doing a song like this for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. They were deemed as another hair metal band or they're really a metal band. And they were just seen as surface level pop, metal, rock. All right, so let me get into other aspects of music for pull it up right here for Nightmare on Elm Street. So this so it goes along the lines of talking about, 1984, Nightmare on Elm Street, and it says there sure 213 songs in the credits, but that's about it. So part 2 has some jams in it, but the music was not something that was really connected and to this person that wrote this. So they go along the lines of saying that part 3 was extremely frustrating to them with Dream Warriors. And they say, but I'm going to complain. They're not trying to complain too much because of the heavy metal. So they go also along the lines of talking about the Sinead O'Connor tune and how that, as it goes into the aspect of later versions of Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, how they upped the ante of bringing in more pop artists, female pop artists, to give a mix, from my point of view, or give a mix of how that subtle voice, but also having, sultry undertones into her song, and how that changes the dynamic of the films, the later films too, as far as the aspect of horror and music. So, and they go along the lines of saying Dream Warriors might be the best overrated movie related to a song, but Dream Master was the most rock per capita. So many of the scenes particularly are intricately linked to the song that is accompanied by them. And I would agree too. So Dream Warriors, and then what they're saying, their music really, particularly with the way it's presented, is more memorable about what the essence of the movie is about, with how these songs captivated that quite well. So, baby girl, don't do that, okay? Okay? So, I'm going to end on talking about this. Where Dream Child songs are one that's outside of the context of the movie, though memorable within Freddie's Dead's cuts are the opposite. With a few exceptions, most of the songs from the Final Nightmare soundtrack are not one that are much interesting. And it says that the heavy metal trilogy of the franchise were Freddy's Dead, especially the soundtrack, was the, lack of a better word, grungy entry. So admittedly, it's that to say that these songs aren't really ones that would have this person going to the record store, and he's equating it to the franchise, how the franchise, ended. That, again, the aspect of it being more campy, more cheesy, and that it's not, there's nothing new or nuanced or original about either the story plot or the songs. And that's unfortunate with the aspect of what can happen when, you get on the bandwagon of something successful. Let's keep churning out one after the other, after the other, after the other. And it tends to miss the whole idea or the whole aspect of sitting down and really crafting things out and making it uniquely different each time. And then people make the argument too, that's a hard task to take when you are just doing it. It's just it's the aspect of looking at it from this point of view, reinventing the wheel over and over again. You're gonna, eventually crash and burn. So that's one perspective too. So, okay, now I'm going to get into the aspects about the games. Okay. All right. Okay, so this was originally released, Nightmare on Elm Street, the game, in 1987. So it's a 2 to 6 player game, 60 minutes. And so it says that Freddy, on the screen star and the man of your dreams wants to come to your house, invite your friends over, and get ready to stay awake far into the night using Freddy's own special deck of cards. You will try to escape from the nightmare that haunts Elm Street, and you will run with maddening slowness through Freddy's dream maze. You will run for your life toward the clean light of wakefulness, but Freddy will be after you for every turn you take. And you never know which way he will be moving unless you move him toward another player to save your life. And it's quite interesting, going on the franchise chain of getting different elements of different aspects of people, particularly not genres, just people interested as far as the hobbies. Games is a big hobby to get people paying attention to the aspects of a franchise, and that's a clever way of doing that. And then also Freddy's Nightmares, with that television series, it gave excuse me, it gave another spin about the movie, the movie lineage of Freddy, Freddy Krueger, the Nightmare on Elm Street, and with the sitcom, I guess you could make people make the argument, or people make the argument. It tied in loose ends, tending to be that it's a serial aspect of that you tune in to the show weekly and you get resolutions after, after at a certain time or after the week's end, and that, we could draw conclusions about that. But, and then on the critical side of it, could also make the argument that it's just a continuation of returning out some original idea that was already mapped out in the movies. So, needless to say, it's good to have a different variation about the, what as far as to attract people to the franchise versus getting advertisement or influence through games, television series, what have you. Okay, so I'm going to that was a board game version that was released in 1987. Now I'm going to leap into the electronic game. So, of course, these sources, again, will be provided for you. So, A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, this was released in October of 1990. And this is the description of it. So, something frightening has been happening on Nightmare on Elm Street lately. It seems that with each walking day, another gruesome discovery is made. Another neighborhood teen has mysteriously passed away into the dark stillness of the night. Everyone says it's natural causes, but it seems as if there's something or someone has been picking them off one by one on their sleep. And it's a horrible nightmare come true, and the nightmare has a name, Freddy Krueger. It's up to you and your remaining friends to search Elm Street for his bones, which have been scattered about then, collected and burned them in the high school furnace. If you can just stay awake long enough, you might be able to end Freddy's reign of terror for good. You had better hurry through. It's getting late, and you can feel your eyelids getting heavier and heavier. And so for this, the game console, NES, was a platform. And so with the bit rate of how the game looks as far as from the visual aesthetics point of view, it really hypes in the ante of that aspect of going on of, the best way to describe this, going on the aspect of call to action as far as, and that's another thing with that small detail to get the hype up and the adrenaline up about that, reenacting that kind of fight or flight sort of now that's a far-fetched thing. I'm just, saying something. No, I'm not saying this as for a fact, but it's a theory. So, getting that adrenaline pumping up about solving this issue or this problem, and then having that, going through all the aspect of all the mazes you gotta go through, along the lines with the game, and as far as the traps that, more along the lines of what I'm saying is the traps that Freddy will present to the player and the obstacles of overcoming and try to get to the next level and be successful and defeating him. And so those little visual aspects of how he looks in the game and then how the background looks, I think it really helps up the ante about that fear aspect as far as the gruesomeness of what your task is at hand in order to defeat what you're supposed to be defeating in this game. And that also gets along the lines of another tool, clever marketing tool to get people interested in the franchise too, to actually want to see the film. All right, so I'd like to know what you all think about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Please feel free to give me comments, either through email, Substack, X, and fill up those comments on YouTube. It could be greatly appreciated. And all these platforms too, give me a rating. That would be greatly appreciated too. And I'll list some of them as far as I'm on Spotify, I'm on Dweezer, I'm on Spreaker, of course. I appreciate Spreaker for everything. And I'm on Pandora and also YouTube, just to name a few. And I'm continuing to grow to where eventually I'm hoping to be on all of the platforms. All right, so this reaches the end of the hovering light. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care out there. Bye-bye now.